It's happening. Look closely. In the heart of Cleveland, a slow-motion disaster is unfolding, and Kevin Stefanski is this close to being shown the door. This franchise is spiraling, and we're not talking about the fun, cinematic kind of spiral you see in a comeback movie. This is a slow-motion car engulfed in flames, losing control on a sheet of black ice kind of spiral. It's the type of complete and utter meltdown where everyone watching knows it's happening. Everyone sees the cliff approaching, but nobody in the driver's seat seems to know how to hit the brakes. And somehow caught in the middle of all this suffocating chaos is Shedeur Sanders, your future, your headline, your one golden ticket out of purgatory. And he might be looking at the exit sign himself. Yep, things in Cleveland are that bad. Let me give you the hook right now. The story isn't that Stefanski is going to be fired. That's settled. The real story, the one that should keep every Browns fan awake at night, is this. The front office is already preparing a trade package for Shedeur Sanders. Not to get him, but to justify letting him walk next summer if they can't land a specific high-profile coach. They are already hedging their bets because they believe the damage is irreversible. If you're here for the real story, the unfiltered truth, and all the messy behind-the-scenes twists they don't dare show you on the highlight reels, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. And if you're sticking around to witness how this Cleveland Browns quarterback catastrophe plays out to its bitter, franchise-altering end, you should definitely be subscribed because this is about to get wild. Let's rewind the tape. Just a year ago, this team had something resembling momentum. They had a promising roster, a dynamic, electrifying young quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, a head coach in Kevin Stefanski, who had at least once upon a time proven he could win in this league, and a fan base that was absolutely starving, not just for wins, but for a glimmer of hope. Fast forward to today, the scoreboard says 0 wins in what feels like an eternity. The offense is in complete shambles, looking more predictable than a sunrise. The locker room is reportedly divided, fractured by frustration and a total lack of belief. And the quarterback room, that thing has devolved into a full-blown sitcom, except nobody is laughing. And here's where things get even messier, where the palace intrigue turns into a full-blown crisis. According to multiple insiders, sources deep within the Browns organization, ownership has a plan, a secret, desperate, last-ditch plan, and it's one that doesn't involve Kevin Stefanski sticking around beyond this season. In fact, he might not even make it to the end of this season. Because let's face it, if you lose 8 games in a row and your team gets utterly humiliated and blanked 50-0 on national television for the world to see, the word accountability stops being a vague talking point. It becomes an urgent necessity. It becomes a panic button. And behind the closed doors of Berea, Ohio, that button has already been smashed into a million pieces. Multiple sources are confirming that the Cleveland front office is preparing to move on from Stefanski. They're doing it quietly, cautiously, but they are absolutely doing it. The coaching seat isn't just hot anymore. It's pure molten lava, and it's starting to seep through the floorboards of the entire organization, threatening to burn the whole thing down. The same goes for Andrew Berry, the general manager, who once looked like a strategic genius for building out roster depth and hoarding draft picks like a doomsday prepper. But now, all that depth isn't doing much when your team can't even get past midfield. The front office's biggest crime isn't missing on talent, it's the catastrophic mismanagement of the talent they have. Because let's talk about the biggest, most unforgivable offense of all, what they've done to Shedeur Sanders, or more accurately, what they haven't done. This is the guy who was supposed to save the franchise, the player who single-handedly brought excitement and national relevance back to the city of Cleveland, the one who had kids in other states wearing Browns jerseys for the first time in a generation. And what does the organization do with this priceless asset? They throw him into a ridiculous 4-way quarterback competition. They surround him with a broken patchwork offensive line and hand him a playbook that apparently hasn't been updated since 2017. They treat him like he's some raw, unproven project when he was already one of the most polished quarterback prospects to enter the league in years. It's mismanagement in its purest, most infuriating form. It's the kind of strategic fumble that would be almost comical if it weren't so devastatingly real for the fans who have to watch it. And now, with Joe Burrow sidelined with a long-term injury in Cincinnati, you better believe that other teams are watching this dumpster fire with immense interest. Because what happens when your star quarterback is young, unbelievably talented, visibly frustrated, and no longer sure if he believes in the system or the leadership around him? He starts looking elsewhere. And if you don't think the Cincinnati Bengals are already scheming behind the curtain, drawing up trade packages for next year, you are kidding yourself. They've got the cap space. They've got a proven playoff culture. And if Sanders wants out of the toxic mess in Cleveland, Cincinnati is right there. A division rival waiting with open arms and a stable, competent offense. That's the nightmare scenario. That's the move that would haunt Cleveland for a decade. That's what makes the situation bigger than just a simple coaching change. Because firing Stefanski might seem like the obvious fix, but it's not enough. You can't just swap out the man with a headset and call it a solution when your entire locker room has lost confidence in the process, in the front office, in the entire direction of the franchise. This problem is bigger than one guy. It's structural, it's philosophical, and it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a pink slip to stop this bleeding. Let's get brutally honest for a moment. This team doesn't know who it is anymore. There is no identity. There is no rhythm. There is absolutely no buy-in from the players. You've got wide receivers who look like they're freelancing on routes because they don't trust the play call. You've got offensive linemen missing assignments so badly, it looks like they're being paid to tank. You have quarterbacks rotating in and out like it's a meaningless preseason scrimmage in August. And through it all, Kevin Stefanski's post-game interviews sound like a broken record. We've got to execute better. We believe in our system. We'll look at the tape. Bro, the tape is a horror film at this point, and you're the director. And the fans, they're beyond checked out. It's not just about the losing anymore. It's the soul-crushing feeling that it's never, ever going to change. That no matter who's on the field, or in the coach's booth, or in the front office, the Cleveland Browns will always find a new and inventive way to implode. You think that's being dramatic? This team hasn't scored more than 20 points in half their games this season. You've got a defense that's forced to be on the field for 70% of the game, completely gassed by the third quarter. You've got zero offensive innovation, and your grand development plan for a once-in-a-decade quarterback talent is to make him compete with 2 career backups and a clipboard. Make it make sense. So now ownership is stuck between 2 equally terrifying options. Option 1. Clean house mid-season, fire Stefanski and Barry, blow up the entire scheme, pray that someone, anyone, can come in and salvage the locker room before Shedeur Sanders officially demands a trade and the entire fan base stages a full-scale revolt. Option 2, wait it out. Cling to the foolish hope that a few miracle wins will calm things down, only to find yourself having to rebuild everything from scratch anyway next spring. Except now Sanders is already halfway out the door, and top-tier free agents are avoiding Cleveland like it's a haunted house. Spoiler alert, there is no good option left, but if you had to pick one, you rip the band-aid off now, because at least then you send a clear and undeniable message to the locker room and to your franchise quarterback. We hear you. We are not okay with this either, and we're going to fix it starting right now. Anything less than that, and you risk not just a lost season, but a lost decade. And let's not forget, this team has done this exact dance before. You'd think with all the coaching turnover, with all the front office shuffles, someone in that building would have noticed the pattern, but nope. Every few years, they make the same catastrophic mistakes. They stick with a coach for far too long. They completely mismanage a top draft pick. They lose the locker room. They panic. They rebuild. They repeat. So here's the uncomfortable truth that no one inside the building wants to say out loud. If Kevin Stefanski is still the head coach of the Cleveland Browns by the end of this season, it's already over. Not just for him, but for this iteration of the team, for this precious window of opportunity, and maybe, just maybe, for this quarterback. Because Shedeur Sanders doesn't owe Cleveland anything. He doesn't owe them his patience or his prime years. And if this franchise won't build around him, he is going to find one that will. He has that power. He has that leverage. And the way this season is going, he's about to have the motive. The whispers I'm hearing are that his camp is already in contact with former coaches who were cut from the organization. They are keeping a ledger. They are documenting the dysfunction. They are building the case for a way out. This isn't just about losing. This is about escape velocity. The absolute worst case scenario is watching him turn into the next Russell Wilson in Seattle, the next Deshaun Watson in Houston, a transcendent talent suffocated by a decaying system, only to flourish the moment he leaves. But this time it's worse, because he'd be flourishing in Cincinnati. You want to talk about a curse? That would be it. The ultimate, final, unforgivable self-immolation of a professional sports franchise. They cannot let that happen. The owners, the general manager, the ghost of Paul Brown himself, they all know the Bengal scenario is the real boogeyman. So what happens next? We wait, we watch, we scrutinize every press conference, every sideline reaction, every predictable play call, every misfired pass, because the Cleveland Browns are standing at the edge of a cliff. And the only question left is, do they finally learn how to climb out, or do they jump? The fans deserve better. Sanders deserves better. The city of Cleveland deserves a team that can finally stop shooting itself in the foot and start building something real. Will this franchise finally get it right this time? Or will it once again be the proud author of its own disaster? What's brewing inside this franchise is bigger than a coaching crisis. It's bigger than an 8-game losing streak. It's bigger even than the absolute nationally televised faceplant that was the 50-0 blowout. This isn't just another disappointing Browns season, folks. This is a full-blown existential meltdown. And at the center of it all is a franchise that has completely lost its way and doesn't know who it is anymore. You can feel it in every robotic, uninspired post-game presser. You can hear it in every rumor leaking out of that fractured locker room. You can see it in the way Shedeur Sanders scans the sidelines. A look of detached frustration on his face, like he's already imagining himself in another team's jersey. The energy is off. The vibes are unrecoverable. And let's be crystal clear, no amount of Stefanski's "we're just not executing mumbo-jumbo" is going to convince anyone that this team is still locked in, because you can't just scheme a soul problem. And right now, the Cleveland Browns don't just lack strategy, they lack an identity, they lack a soul. Remember when Kevin Stefanski was considered a Coach of the Year candidate? When he brought a quiet confidence, a punishing run-heavy offense, and just enough stability to give Browns fans a taste of real hope. Yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago. This current version of Stefanski, the one we see standing on the sidelines looking utterly lost, looks like a man watching his own career end in real time. He appears frozen, flat, philosophically rigid, and completely out of sync with a roster that is begging for creativity, for dynamic leadership, for something to believe in, and the ownership knows it, which is why the whispers of his firing aren't just whispers anymore. They're becoming a deafening roar. He's gone. It's just a matter of when, not if. They're already lining up potential replacements, and who can blame them? This team doesn't just need a fresh voice. It needs a shock to the system. Something, anything to jolt it back to life before Shedeur Sanders decides he's out and takes your entire future with him. Let's pause on Sanders for a second, because this kid is the key to the whole damn house. We are talking about a quarterback who should have been the undisputed centerpiece of a franchise renaissance. A dual-threat phenom with elite vision, off-the-charts charisma, and the kind of media magnetism that makes a city like Cleveland relevant again on the national stage. He is the type of player you build statues for, not the type you babysit through broken schemes and busted play calls. And what has this team done for him? They threw him into a chaotic, confidence-killing quarterback competition with recycled backups. They've given him an offensive line that looks like it's made of wet paper. They've sent him out there with playbooks so outdated and predictable it feels like they were designed for a Madden game from 2004. It's not just mismanagement, it's coaching malpractice, full stop. And if Shedeur walks, if he really does end up in Cincinnati or some other city that actually knows how to protect its star assets, that single move will haunt the city of Cleveland for the next decade. Because this isn't just about one season gone wrong, it's about a generational opportunity being completely and utterly wasted. And those don't come back around easily. Not in this league, and certainly not in this division. Think about it. You've got Baltimore, a perennial contender with a stable organization. You have Pittsburgh, a team that is never down for long. And now you have Cincinnati, who might be without their star quarterback Joe Burrow for an extended stretch. There is a window here, or at least there was a window. But the Cleveland Browns, in their infinite wisdom, fumbled it so hard it might end up on top 10 franchise disasters YouTube lists for years to come. And don't for a second think the players aren't feeling it. That locker room is reportedly fractured beyond repair. Frustration is boiling over into open conflict. Veterans are allegedly checking out mid-game. Receivers are openly showing up the quarterback on the field. And the quarterback himself, he's showing all the signs of being done with the situation. You can see it in his body language. The slumped shoulders, the quick frustrated hesitations, the side eyes to the sideline after another conservative soul-crushing run call on 3rd and long. wrong. You can tell when a quarterback's heart is still in it, and right now, Shedeur's heart looks like it's halfway out the door. And honestly, can you blame him? He's a modern, dynamic quarterback playing in a prehistoric, rigid system. He's a generational talent being managed like he's a rookie on a short leash who can't be trusted. He's a high-powered Ferrari engine being used to drive a rusted-out four-cylinder station wagon. If I'm Shedeur's agent, I'm printing out the game tapes from the last 8 games, putting them in a box and mailing them to every competent franchise in the league with a sticky note that just says, "This is what not to do with a star quarterback." So yeah, firing Stefanski is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You can't just clean house at the head coach position. You've got to rebuild the entire blueprint. You need a modern offensive mind, a player-centric system, a general manager who actually understands how to structure a QB-friendly roster in the year 2025, not 2015. Because if you don't do that, the next hire is just another delay, another band-aid on a gaping wound, another false start in a city that has built a painful legacy on almosts and what ifs. Let's talk options. You want to save this team. You need a coach who understands quarterback empowerment, someone who knows how to adapt a scheme to fit the unique talents of the player, not the other way around. You need someone who can walk into that broken locker room and command immediate respect without needing a decade of backstory to do it. And no, that does not mean another recycled name from the NFL coaching carousel graveyard. This next hire has to mean something. It has to be a statement. It has to signal that this team is finally ready to evolve, because here's what the fans will never forgive: losing Shedeur Sanders because of organizational ego and incompetence. You lose him, and it's not just a player leaving, it's your entire direction, your entire future walking out the door with him. That's why the next move isn't just critical, it's legacy defining for the ownership, for the franchise, and for every single fan who has suffered through decades of relentless mediocrity. This is your shot to break the cycle, and if you miss, it won't just be another rebuild, it'll be a one-way ticket to irrelevance, because the league is getting younger, faster, and smarter, and if you can't keep up, you get left behind forever. So, here's the one question the Cleveland Browns organization has to answer, and they have to answer it now. Do you want to build a dynasty, or do you want to be a meme? There is no middle ground anymore. Either you lean into Shedeur Sanders and give him everything he needs to win, a modern offense, a stable front office, a clear vision, or you watch him walk into another team's building and become the superstar you were too dysfunctional to support. The clock is ticking. The fan base is watching. The real tragedy here isn't that they hired the wrong coach. It's that they are about to lose the right quarterback, the one they had a chance to build the next 20 years on. And the ultimate irony? They're going to use the same bureaucratic, committee-driven, risk-averse management style to find the next coach that created this disaster in the first place. You can't fix a heart attack with a band-aid, and you can't fix a systemic organizational collapse by hiring the safest, most uninspiring coordinator whose playbook is already gathering dust. Look at the candidates they are reportedly circling. Familiar names, guys who will stabilize the situation. Stabilization is the last thing this franchise needs. It needs a revolution. It needs a firebrand. It needs someone who will walk in and say, "This is Shedeur Sanders' team. The rest of you are here to serve his success." Anything less is a continuation of the death spiral. And mark my words, if they botch this next hire, if they don't immediately signal to Sanders, to the league, and to the entire city that they have learned their lesson and are prioritizing a modern, explosive, QB-centric offense, the trade talk for Sanders won't be whispers anymore. It will be the loudest, most deafening drumbeat of organizational failure in NFL history. We're in the final act of the Stefanski era, but we might also be watching the first act of the Shedeur Sanders exit. And the latter is what truly matters. Stay tuned, because the leaks are about to turn into a flood. Something is going to break, and it's going to happen fast.